Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another childhood ruining conspiracy theories for you guys. I love filming these videos. I think they're super fun and funny, and I like reflecting on my favorite childhood TV shows and movies. I don't know, call me nostalgic. Alright, I am, okay? Anyway, these are the craziest conspiracy theories that will ruin your childhood. Let's get into it. Alright, the first theory comes from Arthur, and it's the theory that Mr. Ratburn's school is actually a psychological experiment. So basically there is a fan conspiracy theory surrounding the show Arthur. I loved this show as a kid. I thought it was really cute and fun, but this conspiracy theory definitely adds a darker layer. So the theory is that Lakewood Elementary is not actually a typical educational institution, but instead a psychological experiment that's designed to study how young animals representing children would respond to human-like scenarios. So the theory is that Mr. Ratburn is the lead researcher or the overseer of this experiment, and basically the students are in a controlled setting and are being monitored and seeing how animals can react with human-like situations thrust upon them. The students being subjects in a social experiment kind of makes a bit of sense just based on their archetypes. Like, I feel like each character has a very specific go-to type that kind of checks out here. So Arthur, obviously, he's like the everyman, often conflicted with what is right and what's wrong. Francine is strong-willed and competitive and tries to be a leader. Buster is obviously carefree and also comic relief. Muffy is wealthy and entitled and an outlier, and Brain is obviously the intellectual prodigy. These archetypes are perfect for observing how different personality types respond to different types of social and moral dilemmas. And throughout the series, there's always repeats of different lessons that everyone is having to learn, and they all cope with things in different ways. The theory goes further that the city that they live in Arthur Elwood City, is actually just a controlled environment overall, and it's very idyllic and obviously very perfect town where everything revolves around the children and their experiences. So the theory goes that the reason that every problem just seems to reset in the Arthur universe, obviously, a lot of TV shows do this, but according to this theory, it's because these kids' problems just reset. Like, no matter what happens, the next episode, all their relationships, conflicts, and lessons are just completely reset, and that is because they are living in a simulation. I don't know, I think this theory kind of adds a darker layer to Arthur, but let me know what you guys believe. The next conspiracy theory is from How I Met Your Mother, and Neil Patrick Harris, who plays Barney, actually confirmed that he believes this theory to be true. I am the biggest Ted hater. I don't know how anyone watches How I Met Your Mother and fucks with Ted. He is selfish and he's a loser. Like, he sucks. But nonetheless, so obviously the entire premise of the show is basically Ted telling his kids how he met their mother, but also the kind of entire point, spoiler alert, is that Ted is trying to get the kids' approval to pursue Robin. And basically the premise of this theory is that Ted Mosby, as he's retelling these stories, which is what we're watching when we watch How I Met Your Mother, he is making Barney seem so much worse than he actually was. And I think that this is an interesting theory. So basically the theory is that Ted is making Barney seem like a total asshole and just like selfish, womanizer, all this stuff, because he wants to have his kids have that kind of notion of Barney so that he can justify in their minds their dad literally getting with his best friend's wife. Like, that's pretty crazy. I just think the way that Ted Mosby is, like, his energy is so something that would just, like, him grasping at straws to try to justify the fact that he literally stole his best friend's girl. I think that's such, like, a Ted Mosby trait, you know? I mean, I guess technically he did date her first, but, like, when your friend marries her, I feel like off limits. So in order to get his kids' approval to pursue Robin, he had to make it seem like Barney was kind of a douche. And maybe Barney is, like, parts of him, I'm sure, are the same Barney that we know and love. But perhaps Ted just kind of amplified his douchiness to kind of make himself feel better about stealing his best friend's wife. I believe it. If you're not a Ted Mosby hater, I don't know. But let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Do you believe it? Neil Patrick Harris claims that he thinks that that's true, and I have to agree. Ted's just a douche. One of the worst main characters in TV history, I think. Probably besides Susan Meyer from Desperate Housewives. I love Susan though in my heart, you know. Anyway, the next theories I want to talk about come from the Vampire Diaries. I love the Vampire Diaries. This obviously is not that childhood ruining to me, because if you don't know, I just watched the Vampire Diaries for the first time this year. And I've just been in a cycle rewatching it ever since. I love it, but I know for a lot of you guys and like all of my friends, this is a childhood show that they enjoyed like in middle school. And so I have some theories about the Vampire Diaries that I find to be pretty childhood ruining. So the first theory has to be true. And it's basically the idea that Elena Gilbert subconsciously manipulates everyone with her doppelganger powers. This is 100% has to be a thing, because if you think about it, the hold that Elena has over literally everyone it's gotta be supernatural. I mean, Nina Dobrev is beautiful. I get it, but like, everyone needs to relax. Why is everything about saving Elena? It does get to a point where I'm like, oh my god, like you're actually risking legit 12 other people's lives to save Elena. Like, this is a lot. Theory is that there's actually a supernatural reason as to why that is. And honestly, everyone in the whole show feels the need to protect Elena. If you think about it, Elena's life is spared so often by so many different people, not just the Salvatore brothers, but Klaus, which he's supposed to be evil. Obviously, he's kind of not. I love Klaus. Anyway, I feel like Klaus spared her life so many fucking times, even when she was a vampire and she couldn't be any use to him anymore. And then also, I just feel like anytime Elena got into a situation, a lot of the time, the person really wasn't trying to kill her. Like, Catherine never really tried to kill Elena, because she would have. And also Kai, I'm rewatching right now, so I'm on season 6, and I'm like, listen, Kai does not even, like, he could have just killed Elena, but instead ties her to this weird spell so she lives. And I just feel like everyone low-key has a soft spot for Elena, even if they're terrible. And I don't understand this. And then, like, okay, maybe it's because she's the main character of the show, and I get it. But I also think that it is interesting that these doppelgangers have an inherently supernatural pull that is just inexplicable. And I think Catherine is proof of this as well, because she and Stefan actually, hold on, the theory goes further. Okay, so Catherine, we've seen, she's able to just manipulate everyone. You could say it's beauty, you could say it's, I don't know. But Catherine can manipulate anyone that she wants. And I truly think it's because she's a doppelganger. Obviously, later on, we know Stefan is also a doppelganger. And who also gets everything that he fucking wants, besides at the end, is Stefan. Like, if you actually think about it, Stefan is a goddamn ripper. But he can't even have a single meal without becoming a ripper. And yet, Damon is always considered the bad man. And we always forgive Stefan. And we always say that everything that Stefan did is okay, when it just wasn't. Stefan literally killed Enzo. He literally did so many annoying things. And all is just forgiven because he's a doppelganger and he has this supernatural energy that just makes you want to protect and forgive them. I think this theory is true. I do. I think it has to do with the doppelganger, because there is no one who has that amount of, do you know what? There's no one that has that amount of pull in the fucking Vampire Diaries universe besides Elena Gilbert. But I just feel like this adds so much context to the plot, because first of all, how many times has Matt Donovan, risked his life? He should have just died a long time ago. Many. Fucking Bonnie? Oh my god, Bonnie risks her life all the time. Bonnie has died like 12 times to save Elena's ass. What's that? And Stefan's. So I don't know. I think this theory is true, and I actually think it adds a very interesting layer to the show, and like it makes me watch it completely different. So let me know your thoughts. The second theory about the Vampire Diaries that I have is that Damon secretly knew about the cure way before season 4. I think that this is 100% true. I've always thought this. So there's basically a theory that Damon Salvatore actually knew that there was a cure for vampirism long before its discovery in season 4. But he deliberately chose to withhold this information because he wanted to avoid losing Elena, which Elena obviously ended up loving Damon more when she became a vampire. And so to avoid losing her, he didn't want her to ever have the cure or access to it. Or maybe before Elena, he didn't want Stefan to have access to the cure because he didn't want to be alone. I think that this is a very interesting theory, and I think it makes a lot of sense because obviously Damon is pretty knowledgeable about the supernatural history and lore, and he spends decades traveling around the world encountering witches and vampires and other supernatural beings. It's highly unlikely that he had never heard about a cure before. I think that this theory could be true, and I just think it, again, adds an interesting layer, because we've seen Damon try to actively hide the cure from Elena in the show, like once we learn about the cure. But who's to say that he didn't already know it existed and hasn't just been hiding it this entire time, and possibly even from Stefan? I don't know. I think it's interesting. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Alright, the next theory I think is one of the most childhood ruining conspiracy theories ever, and it's because it is actually true. And it is the reason that Zoey 101 ended. Okay, when I say actually true, I mean Nickelodeon has said that this is not true, but we all know the truth, right? Basically, I remember being so angry at Jamie Lynn Spears for being pregnant at 16 years old because Zoey 101 ended. And again, she announced her pregnancy while the last season of Zoey 101 was still airing in December of 2007. And at the time, Nickelodeon faced intense backlash for this and public scrutiny from parents, with concerns that Spears' pregnancy would set a negative message to young viewers. And it has led many fans to speculate if the ending of Zoey 101 was really coincidental, happened to be the same time that Jamie Lynn Spears ends up pregnant. So Jamie Lynn Spears and Nickelodeon have denied these claims for years now. At every interview, I feel like Jamie Lynn Spears clarifies that Zoey 101 did not end because of her pregnancy and that filming had allegedly already wrapped. I just don't believe that. Like, I think that's a little too, it ended because she got pregnant, for sure. But something that's even creepier is that people think that Jamie Lynn Spears got pregnant with Dan Schneider. Now, we've talked about Dan Schneider before. Dan Schneider is the creator on all of these shows, and obviously now we've learned he's a creep. And a lot of people believe that Jamie Lynn Spears' daughter is actually the child of Dan Schneider, which sounds insane, but it's actually not that crazy because apparently there was a blind item in 2007 that released about this. The blind item says, quote, "I don't even know how you define what list someone is when they are on some ensemble show watched by teens and preteens, so go with the above and make her a female. Make her pregnant, which is causing the producers to have a heart attack because they don't need any more scandals. But wait, there's more. One of the producers who's old enough to be her grandfather shouldn't be having a heart attack because of shock, because he is the one who knocked her up. New boyfriends are being lined up as we speak." And again, that's allegedly about Jamie Lynn Spears and Dan Schneider. And what I will say, Dan Schneider looks a hell of a lot more like that child than the alleged father, Casey Aldridge. Sorry. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Do you think that this theory is true? Because it kind of freaks me out, and it has been ruining my childhood, like, since 2007. If it was really that she was impregnated by Dan Schneider, then I just feel bad for her, because that is so scary and fucking disturbing. Alright, the next childhood ruining theories have to do with Max and Ruby. I loved this show as a child, but there are some very dark conspiracy theories surrounding the show. So essentially there's a couple theories in here that coincide together and all make up the entirety of Max and Ruby, or at least the lore behind it. So the theory starts that there was a tragic accident that killed Max and Ruby's parents. So basically the story begins with a traumatic car accident that involved Max, Ruby, and their parents. And Max, who is the youngest, sitting in the back seat, suffered brain damage and post-traumatic stress disorder as a result, which is why he has a hyperfixation on toys like fire trucks and ambulances, because those stem from his last memories with his parents. And I guess the brain damage is equating to him not talking. Although other people believe his neurological damage is not actually neurological damage, but it is because his grandmother SA'd him as a child. I don't know who came up with that. That is so dark and twisted, like, but that's a theory. So Max and Ruby ended up living, but their parents died. So Ruby had to take over the parental role, which obviously added to her need to be a perfectionist and have those kind of tendencies of like creating order out of chaos. And I guess all of this coincides with the idea that the grandma is like not really taking care of them. I don't know why, because they don't have parents, so like why isn't their grandparents taking care of them? It doesn't really make sense why Ruby is like the sole caregiver for Max, because she is also a child. But it's theorized that the grandma is like actually evil or like did something terrible to Max, and that is why he is like non-verbal essentially. Like that is quite the dark spin on Max Ruby, I will say. Okay, the next childhood rooting theories come from Invader Zim. Bitch, I was obsessed with Gur as a child. I didn't even really watch the show, but I loved Gur. I would like watch Gur moments on YouTube. I thought he was so cute and funny. I had a ton of t-shirts from Hot Topic. It was a phase, alright? Had like purple streaks in my hair and Invader Zim shirts. But there's a theory that I think actually makes a lot of sense, and it's the theory that Zim's mission was actually not to invade, but it was used as a distraction to like get him kind of out of the way. So the theory suggests that the almighty tallest was actually never intended for Zim to conquer Earth, but instead they kind of sent him on a fake mission as a deliberate distraction to keep him away from the Urkin Empire, where he was just causing chaos and being annoying, and he really is just a kid. I think it actually makes a lot of sense that the tallest actually just view him as a nuisance and wanted him to like get out of the way. They're like, go ahead, go conquer Earth, because they knew he wouldn't be able to do it, and it would just serve as a distraction. I think the theory is corroborated by the fact that he's given a Gur instead of a functional Sir unit like everyone else has. So like they really were just like, here, just take this, go ahead, go off, bye. And obviously Gur's behavior is always undermining his plans and basically ensuring that his failures keep him distracted. I think this theory actually makes a lot of sense because it seems like Zim is never really taken seriously by the Urkin Empire, and I don't know. I kind of believe it. What are your thoughts? All right, the next childhood ruining conspiracy theories come from Victorious. This was, again, crazy great show. But there is a dark theory that Hollywood Arts is actually a front for an elite grooming program. So the theory is that Hollywood Arts isn't actually just an average performing arts high school, but it's actually a front of a secret program that's designed to mold young students into stars for the entertainment industry. Theory is that the school is funded and operated by powerful Hollywood elites who scout out and exploit the most talented and marketable children. If you think about it, this kind of makes a lot of sense because Hollywood Arts has pretty extravagant facilities, like resources that other schools wouldn't have, like high technology and professional grade sound systems, lavish recording studios, etc. And the students are like never actually in class there. There's no academic classes pretty much. Like they're only having theater and singing. Like that's it. I think this theory is actually kind of smart, and if you think about it, it could be like kind of based on real schools in Hollywood, because if you've noticed, a lot of young famous people like who end up being famous singers happen to go to the same schools in Los Angeles, like high schools. It makes you wonder if the elites kind of donated to these high schools around LA to have their foot in the door and on any potential marketable clients that are amazing young singers. And it's kind of dark and scary, especially when you think about all like the P. Diddy shit going on. I don't know, my mind just goes to Justin Bieber. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. All right, the last childhood ruining conspiracy theory is so crazy. I cannot believe I didn't know this. This scene absolutely ruined How the Grinch Stole Christmas for me, and how am I supposed to continue on? I don't know. So I love The Grinch. I always say people whose favorite Christmas movie is The Grinch, we can be friends. You're cool. If you like Elf better than The Grinch, I think you need to be committed. You should be in jail. Sorry. Like, you're not funny and you're not very cool. Anyway, so there is, of course, the scene of The Grinch where it's the Christmas party scene where we see, like, where the Grinch ends up on the doorstep of the aunt's I guess he calls them the old ladies. I think they're lesbians, but that's a whole nother story. But there is a part of the scene that is so dirty that I had no idea existed, and I probably would have never known if I didn't see it on TikTok. So in this Christmas scene, the adults are drinking and very free-spirited and just chilling. And there is a particular moment where several Who adults at this party are seen throwing their keys into a bowl. I didn't know what that meant. I had never heard of this before, but apparently this move is widely recognized as a hallmark of a swingers party, because whose ever car keys you pick up at the end of the evening is who you're going home with. What the fuck? The Grinch! Why'd y'all put that in the Grinch? I am ultimately disturbed by this. The Grinch's parents are swingers and probably lesbians. The lesbians part is cool, but the swingers? That's wild to put in there. That's so funny. I cannot believe that I had no idea. I honestly feel like I have to rewatch The Grinch with like knowing this knowledge and really trying to take a deeper look into it, because I think there are some really dark freaking things in there. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what TV shows or movies you want me to do childhood ruining conspiracies on. Let us know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for the videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.